3D printing Warhammer is either the most talked about thing on YouTube or it's the most taboo subject to ever hit the wargaming market. You either want to stick it to Games Workshop to print your own toys, or you're absolutely fed up with 3D printer bro not shutting up about 3D printing over, and you just want everyone to shut up about it. But 3D printing has opened a huge floodgate for a wide range of options and bits and parts and pieces to use on our models to customize them in ways we could only imagine without like insane green stuff / milliput sculpting talents anyway. Or it's even provided entire armies of alternative models to use in our favorite games. And today I'm here to tell you that it's okay to print Warhammer proxies sometimes. Games Workshop have been like a bull in a china shop protecting their intellectual property or IP in the recent years. As the internet becomes more of a thing and they become a more public facing company, a lot more people have noticed. But they have a core business model that they're trying to protect. They make plastic miniatures and they make rules for plastic miniatures. So the rules make you buy plastic miniatures and then they change the rules to make you buy more plastic miniatures. That's just what they do. You know, they sell you books, they sell you paint, they sell you clippers, they sell you models, and they want you to keep buying it. And that's totally fine. That is their business model. We all seem to enjoy it. And it's totally cool, you know? I love Warhammer. I think it's a really great hobby. And I love everything about it. And there's nothing wrong with them trying to protect their IP, to protect their core business model. So why am I sat here saying it's okay to 3D print Warhammer proxies if it's also okay to protect their intellectual property? You're a hypocrite. Well, on the deep dark web that we all exist on, there are kind of like two ways you can describe a 3D model for Warhammer. There's one way where you can call it a rip-off, which is either a 3D scan or an identically modeled unit or miniature or squad or whatever of a model that's available from Games Workshop. And it's like one for one almost. It's just like copy my homework, but don't make it look the same. They just change the name at the top. All they've done is taken a picture or a 3D model or a 3D scan and designed their own, and then they put it out on the web. And it's just a copy. It's a rip-off. It's a direct copy. It's really bad. Then on the other side, there's alternatives. There's proxies. There's stand-ins, and these are kind of like, as the name suggests, it's a suitable stand-in where it's got the same concept, the same core idea behind it. It might be a man with a gun. And that's totally fine, but they've kind of taken it their own way to either theme it or just like their own concept, and it's kind of like similar. The idea is there, but it's different, and it's a proxy, and that's what it's designed to do. It's not supposed to be a copy, it's a proxy. And that's what I mean. Like, in my opinion, proxies are okay, but rip-offs are not. Rip-offs are bad. Proxies stand out because usually, as I said, it's an inspired model. It has some similar aspects to something it might be trying to represent, or even just similar aspects just on happenstance. It just so happens to look like something that it could be used in another game like Warhammer. But it's trying to be its own thing, and that's kind of important. And what all this does, it gives us options when choosing models that we want to buy, to paint, to build, to use, whatever. It's an alternative, and options are always good for us. And this is not a new concept at all. It's not like suddenly 3D printing is like, oh, everyone's making proxies now. Like, proxies have existed for years. Ever since like the inception of Warhammer, people have been making alternative models or alternative sculpts to use in our games. Either because the model that they are trying to represent is really divisive and people really hate it and they don't like it and they want something different, or it's because the model that they are trying to represent is really, really old and they want something that's a little bit more updated, whether it's made in a different type of material, or it's just a really bad model. Then people are just like, I hate it, I want something that looks a bit cooler. And you know, we all picture certain units in the game that probably do have that happen quite a lot for one reason. In our growing hobby, as the hobby grows as a whole, there's more and more people joining Warhammer every single day, or just joining wargaming and tabletop gaming as a whole every single day. And as that grows, the talents of sculptors and creators and artists from around the world coming together to create something cool grows as well. And I feel like there's enough design space in the world for them to exist, to create like unique concepts and design and art styles for models that can fit into worlds that we love. And I'm all for it, and that's why today's video is sponsored by Creed's Painting Miniature. The models we're printing today are from Creed Paint Miniatures, a new subscription-based designer found on Patreon. They release new STL packages each month, and they are set out to release a full futuristic sci-fi shock troop force with a whole range of options and choices to choose from. The miniatures are designed to be great stand-ins for any sci-fi wargame or just fun painting pieces, with their own backstory being released, as well as miniatures every single month. The miniatures are super easy to print, coming fully supported and even pre-plated, so you don't even have to think when getting these models from files to tabletop. Each wave contains new STLs for different miniatures or unit types, and this month they're releasing some Exo Harness Orcus, a Rundsgard in a mech suit to give them abhuman strength and resilience, with next month containing a whole battle tank. All of the parts are modular, so you can decide which parts you use to customize your own miniatures. And if you missed any previous releases, you can grab them on their My Mini Factory store, and all current Patreon subscribers get 20% off those past releases. And as a special thank you for looking at their My Mini Factory store, viewers of mine can go ahead and download some free STL files to try out printing and painting some Rundsgard themselves. But if all of this sounds great and you don't have a 3D printer, buy one. They also sell physical versions of their models too on their Proxy Wars store. Using my link in the description and using code Hellstorm, you'll even get a discount on physical models. So for all of that and more miniatures each month, check out the link in the description to Creed's Painting Miniatures or any other link I've mentioned right now to see what's on offer. Thank you so much to Creed's Painting Miniatures for sponsoring today's video, and thank you for checking out the links. Right, let's get back to it. The other great thing about alternative models, about proxies, about stand-ins, is that they're usually cheaper than like the official models that they're trying to represent. I mean, we live in a capitalist society and it shows, but that's okay. They're just trying to like entice new customers to use their miniatures because they're actually a little bit cheaper, and again, that's totally fine. But 3D printing is working out to be cheaper than alternative models or Games Workshop as a whole. It is just a much cheaper way to create proxies for the games that we're playing. And in my opinion, 3D printing, whether you already own one or know someone with one, is a great way to, like a really good gateway to try out wargaming, whether it's the building models, the painting models, or even just wargaming as a whole, before you go off and spend hundreds, if not thousands of dollars on buying an army, buying terrain and whatever to try and play a game, and realizing that wargaming is absolutely dog. You just don't want to do it ever again. At a guess, like probably 90% of games of Warhammer or war games happen at home rather than anywhere else. And at home, no one can tell you what you can and can't use as models. Everyone knows of the meme of using a Coke can as a drop pod, because people were practicing and trying out this brand new unit that no one had ever seen before, and they really want to try it out, but the model wasn't released, but they had rules for it, so everyone was like scanning like Coke cans or beer tins and dropping them onto the battlefield to try out the model before it came out and released to see what it was like, you know? We all know of that meme, and at home you can still do that, you know? You can use Coke cans as drop pods, you can use plastic army men on bases as guardsmen, you can use this nail polish that Georgie's left on my desk as a space marine if you really wanted to. You can do anything you like because you're at home. Or you can just use bits of paper, like no one cares. You're at home, you're having a great time. As long as the base size and the silhouette of the thing you're trying to represent is about right, you're going to be totally fine, because in wargaming, most of the time, the base is used for the measurement, so as long as the base size is correct, you're going to be fine. And the silhouettes are sometimes used for line of sight, so as long as it stands around the right size, you're going to be totally fine to use literally anything you want as anything you want in any war game. Not just Warhammer, in any game that you play on the tabletop. So when making a proxy army to play with you and your friends at home, as long as you've got the base size and the silhouette, then the models are going to be totally fine. And you're going to be able to crack on and play a cool game. But that's like probably an important point, and it's something I've kind of said a couple of times. It's when you're using a printed proxy army at home, because firstly, no one can stop you using proxy models at home. But it's also a cheap, really cheap way to try out units that you might not have bought, or they might not perform well, or they might not look the part in your army. So you kind of want to try them out before you go and spend your money on official models for them. But when it comes to gaming at local clubs or even tournaments, then that's when you should probably start looking at buying official models. Like, of course, you should use official models in tournaments, because there might be disparity with sizes. We've talked about the silhouette. There might be a disparity in size because you don't have one to compare it to, so you don't really know. Or it's just hard for your opponent to recognize what they're trying to represent, because like not all stand-ins and all proxies look like what they're supposed to be representing. It might be because you like it and you think it looks the same, but your opponent is constantly saying, what's that supposed to be again? What's that? What's that thing? The piece of paper with the the blue tax up to the top. What's that supposed to be again? So it's unfair to them to try and expect to learn all of these alternative models that are available because you've printed them, or they've gone out and bought official models, so you should probably too. And it's unfair to the local store that you're playing at if they don't sell these models that you're using and you're just using them anyway. You're not really supporting the place that you are letting you go and play games in there. You should really support these places, you know? But if you are 3D printing models and you are going to a game store with them, you're kind of running a risk, and that's okay, but don't throw your toys out of the pram if someone calls you up on it and your opponent doesn't want to play against them, or the store asks you to not use them, because you might be confusing your opponent. You're not providing to the place that you're playing in the store, so it's on you to check that before you go do it. Personally, I use 3D printed proxies all the time when I'm practicing for tournaments or upcoming events that I want to take a new list to. Like, Tabletop Simulator is a thing, like a digital version of the game is fine, but I can't stand it. It takes too long. It's really clunky. It's not designed to do what we want it to do. And I find it way more engaging. I feel like I get a lot more from a game when I'm playing in person with miniatures, with dice, and with a person that I can talk to who can help me analyze the game at an equal level when we're both working together to try and practice. But also, I don't want to have to go out and buy 3 of every single unit with every single option available just to practice with, to be then like, oh, actually, I don't actually like this. I don't want to have to go out and buy that or build it or whatever. And I don't want to have to like down 3 cans of Coke to try out 3 drop pods in my own hands list. Mikey, we need something to use as drop pods.
Oh, this one's empty. There you go.
Actually, mate, we need another one. What are you doing? You know we just need the bottle. It doesn't actually have to be empty.
Right, okay. Well, here you go.
Are you alright?
Yeah, I'm all good.
I just want to try out the list in person, and I need models to do that. So this is where like 3D printed proxies like come in really clutch, because I can just get a model that's very similar to test out a list. And then when I'm ready to submit my list, I can go out and buy the official models and then spend 12 hours before the tournament painting them. But I can't sit here and tell you what is ethically correct and what is right and wrong to print with your 3D printer in your games of Warhammer. I'm not a lawyer. I'm just sat here telling you a story about what I think about the matter. It's a really hot topic, and it's something that's always been brought up by multiple different creators or events that I go to, or just general gaming communities that I'm involved with. And so it's not up to me to tell you what's right or wrong. You kind of got to like make that justification yourself. But I'm like a huge fan of 3D printing. It's like one of my favorite hobbies. I love the technology. I'm just always fascinated by it every single time I use it. And I'm a maker, I'm a builder. I like messing around and making things and learning things. And like when I was younger, I used to like have loads of remote control cars, and I used to love taking them to bits and seeing how they worked and then failing to put them back together so they were broke. But god damn it, did I have fun breaking those remote control cars. But I want to support 3D printing, and I want to support creators who are making cool things for the game I love. But I also want to support the game I love. And I want to support that game I love whilst playing in game stores where I can chat about the hobby, learn new things about the hobby, and make friends along the way. But I want to make it clear that I'm not an advocate for stealing IP or stealing intellectual property, but I am an advocate for supporting creators doing their own thing to create wicked things that we can use in our games that we love. The more options we have and the more options we try out, the better products that we're going to have available to test out further, which will financially support people to make even more things, whether that's a 3D sculptor, a paint manufacturer, a paintbrush manufacturer, hobby tool manufacturers, or Games Workshop themselves. If you're sat there printing Warhammer, rubbing your hands together, just trying to stick it to Games Workshop to get back at them for all the wrongdoings they've done to your family, I think that's a you issue. And if you really want to stick it to Games Workshop, really want to twist the knife in Games Workshop side, then just play a different game, because that's the worst thing you could do for them. If you really want to hit their bottom line, then just play something else, because they really don't want you to do that. But I'm not here to stick it to Games Workshop because I love what they do and I love the miniatures they create. I'm here to do what no one on YouTube has ever done before, and that's sit on the fence. I do think there's a great place for 3D printing in everyone's hobby. You know, as I said, making cool bits to customize your models like you could never do before. And it's easier than it's ever been before. But you also shouldn't rip off direct models from Games Workshop, because that isn't right. It's stealing. It's like illegally downloading music. It's like illegally downloading films. It's basically the same. 3D printing and painting and using models that are directly ripped from Games Workshop is basically the same as watching a pirated movie with a little man standing up to go to the bathroom halfway through. But ultimately, that's just my opinion. That's my story about this topic that I wanted to get involved with, because everyone has thrown their hat into the ring, and I felt like it was about time I threw mine in too. So I'd love to know what you guys think, and whether you think I'm right or wrong for sitting on the fence, or if, like, you know, my biases have come through and you've got an opinion about them. I'd love to have a conversation either in the comments or in our Discord. I want to say a massive thank you to Creed's Painting Miniature for sponsoring today's video, for creating some cool things, and I'm sure we'll be seeing more of them very, very soon. And I want to thank you for watching. I really, really appreciate it. We always enjoy having these random rants about things, and I really hope you've gained something from it. And I just hope you felt like you've spent your time well with me and listening to my rant. So thank you so much for watching. If you want to support me, the best way is by becoming a member. I want to say a massive thank you to my latest members now. Thank you very much to Reza Prime, Jimmy, Matty Dwell, Andy Evans, Tony Burns, Ted66, Tom Robinson, and Akuno Matata. Memberships are the best way to support me financially, so if you enjoy what I do, please do consider it today. I do really appreciate it, and it goes such a long way. And that's it. So let me know what you think, and hopefully I'll catch you next time. Bye!